So we just finished up the build on this Troopy. This is probably the biggest one we've done so far. There's quite a lot in this, so there's a lot to unpack, so let's jump into it and check it out. So starting at the front, so we've just put the ARB Summit MKII bull bar on it. I personally think ARB bull bars are the nicest looking ones. I really like these fog lights down here. So that's just in black, just to suit kind of the theme of sandy and black. So that one looks pretty nice. Then just jumping into the engine bay, not a huge amount under here. Being the 2.8, you can't put the second battery and so on under here, so not a huge amount goes under. So we've just done the upgraded alternator because we do have two DC-DC chargers in the back, so we've just upgraded the alternator so it can handle that extra current. We've got a little fuse just on our bracket, sitting on top of the battery there. So that's a 250 amp mega fuse just to handle the 240 amp Black Series alternator. So just go on the Black Series. I think they're the best alternators you can get. They produce the most at low RPM, which is really something big, you know, because a lot of the time you're just sitting there at lights. So to get that current coming in just at low RPM is really a big benefit. So that's why the Black Series is a really good option. Then we've got the bonnet struts, just so you obviously don't have to worry about putting the little lever up every time. So that just holds the bonnet up for us. We've got our relays just for a couple circuits. So you've got the heated seats just under here. So that's just where the relays house instead of having them up underneath the dash. Just a little bit more accessible to have them there. We've also chucked the diff breathers on. So it's just the front and rear diff breathers. So then same thing, it's just nice and accessible up here. Just quite easily get to them if you ever need to swap them out. Then we've also got the Safari Snorkel. So this is the one for the 2.8, so it just suits that. And then you just get a little bit of extra airflow coming through, and then obviously keeps the water, if you're doing any ingress of water in that, it just keeps it up high, out the way. So that's a nice little handy feature. We're also on the side, just got the fender flares. We've got them color matched to the vehicle. So they're just on all four sides there, just so that we could run the extra wider tires. So they're pretty nice setup now, where it's pretty flush with the fender flares, so they look pretty good. So that's pretty much everything at the front, not a huge amount going on, so we'll jump around the side and check out what we've done there. So jump around to the driver's side, so we've got the MSA mirrors. I think these are probably one of the most underrated modifications you can do. I got a set on my car, and you can see quite a lot of extra visibility with these. So I think they're a really good must-have to have, and then obviously they're really handy when you're towing. You just extend them out and you see what's behind you. Then we've also got the ARB side steps just down here on both sides. Didn't go for the scrub rails, not really doing too much hardcore off-roading, so that's why we haven't got the scrub rails, but we just got little side steps there. Then we've also got our 15 amp inlet for shore power, because we do have the multi-plus in this one. So that way we can just get our AC charging, we just plug straight in there. We can get up to 120 watts of AC charging. Then jumping up to the roof, so it's got the Headspace roof conversion. This one's the premium model they've gone for. Really the main difference between them is really that wood panel finish. That's really the big difference that people look at when it's tossing up between the standard and the premium. Hence why I think a lot of people do go for the premium one, because that wood finish does look pretty nice. So they've opted for the premium one on this. And then we're just going ahead and put the 425 watt solar panel on the roof. Don't really plan on using the roof too much to carry much weight. So we'll just go ahead and maximize as much solar as possible and going ahead and put the 425 watt solar panel on. That's a really good option. It's actually made in Australia, that solar panel. One of the few products that do get made in Australia. So it is pretty nice to be able to fit Australian made products to it. And then obviously being made in Australia and solar, they obviously know our sun better than anyone else. So it performs really well. That panel, and then we've just made up the little brackets on either side, just pretty much similar to the backbone system of the Rhino rack, just so it flows and then looks pretty nicely, and then yeah, it just looks pretty sleek up there. Then we've also got the gull wings on both sides. So the front ones are meant to be glass, but we just don't have the glass ones at the moment, so we're just going ahead and fit the MOLLE panel ones, and then as soon as the glass ones arrive, we'll go ahead and swap them out. So hence why you'll see it's just got a little plug here on each side, because we haven't bothered to fit the lights, because they will be coming off, so there's no point mounting the lights when they're just coming off anyway. And then we just got the glass ones on the back here. And then on the glass is where you can see where we've just got our little strip lights here, just the white and amber. And they're just going to be on all 4 Gullwings there. So you can just open it up and just turn them on and off as required. And then the big feature to these ones compared to the old ones we used to do is they've got 2 separate switches. So if you ever want to just go straight to amber, you just hit the amber one. Instead of previously, if you were on white, you would have to hold the light switch and then wait for it to register that you want to go to amber. Where now this time you can either just pick straight away, I want amber, or I want white, or if you want both, you can have both. And now just to dim them, you're just going to hold them. And now it'll just get brighter and dimmer as you just hold each light. So just makes it a little bit easier, a bit more user friendly. And they come in a few different sizes now, 300, 600, 900, where previous before was just little small ones. So if you had them on big canopy doors, they were just a little bit too small for that. Now you can get them in longer sizes. Then just up on here is just where we put the shower awning. So we put it on the back window, just because we've got our shower outlets and that in the utility vent here. So there's no point putting it anywhere forward, because then obviously your outlet's right here, it's a bit pointless. So we just put it on the back one here, and then it's got accessibility straight to your outlet straight here. So who's going for this one? Just mainly they're looking at price and then weight, and this is the one they would just prefer, so that's why they've gone ahead and gone for this brand one. And then we're going for the Destination 4-wheel drive awning on the other side. Then just in our utility vent, so we've got the same thing, utility vent each side. And on this side, we've just got the Solar Anderson for a blanket. So they can just plug straight into there, and then they can put their blanket out and then charge up those batteries. And then we've got a hot water outlet, and then we've got our water in just to fill the tank. So being the 2.8, it doesn't have the 2 tanks like the V8. It's only got the 1 tank, so it's got a 175 litre tank in it. So we've just got the 1 port there, and we'll just use a normal garden hose just to be able to fill it up. Doesn't need a pump or anything to be able to fill the tank up. We'll just use mains pressure to do so. So you can just plug straight into there, fill your tank up, and then it's just got the overflow. So as soon as you obviously see that water coming out, you know it's full, and you can just disconnect it. And then we've just got the hot water outlet here just for the shower. So that's pretty much everything on the driver's side here. So we'll go ahead and jump over to the passenger side and check out what we've done there. Yeah, so we'll start at the top. So we got the Destination 4-wheel drive 270-degree awning. This is my personal favorite awning. The main reason I like it so much is you can just, they're all extendable each line, and it just allows you to be able to get a lot more space. You see quite a lot of coverage under here. So that's why I like it so much. And then the fact that you just pull those little levers on each one of the arms, and then they just slide straight in. And then when you fold it up onto the car, it goes pretty compact, which is a personal favorite of mine. I see quite a lot of big awnings, especially the Maxes on the side of cars when they're going down the road and that. They just stick out so far. They just look a bit terrible in my personal opinion, where this one is pretty compact when it's all zipped up and that in the bag. So that's why I personally like it. It's also made in Australia. Same thing, I like products obviously made in Australia, so that's another big benefit to it. So, and it's pretty strong as well. So this one and the Bush Company are probably the 2 strongest ones. Bush Company I think is slightly stronger, but it does weigh quite a lot more than this. But yeah, you don't really need to put any poles out for this one. It can handle up to 25 k's worth of wind, which is quite a lot. And obviously if it's anything over that, you probably want to put your awning away anyway. So I think, yeah, it does the job for me. That's why I personally think it's a favorite, and yeah, I like it so much. Then we've got the Gullwings on each side, same as the other side. This one will get changed out to the glass one. But yeah, right now we just can't get the glass at the moment, so we're just leaving them with the MOLLE panels, and then once the glass comes in, we'll get them swapped out. So that's the same deal. That's why we haven't fitted the light onto this one. But then we've got the glass one at the back. And then yeah, same deal with the light. So you can just control it the exact same as the other side. And then down here we've got the Mission 4x4 Maxtrax table. So we always tend to mount them slightly more forward. We do see quite a lot of people mount them back here and cover up the utility vent. It's not really how we like to do it, just from the fact that if you ever want to access anything inside your utility vent, like air's a big one you put in there, you have to fold that Maxtrax table down just to be able to use it. And then it's a little bit hard to get to it because the table's in the way. So we always shift them slightly forward, and then it just allows you to be able to use any of the components inside the utility vent. And then just behind the Maxtrax table is the utility vent. So just housed in there is where we've just got the air compressor for your air outlet. Is just there, and then you've just got your hot water outlet, and then also a cold water outlet. So if you just wanted drinking water and you didn't want any hot water, you just grab it straight from the cold water. And obviously if you're doing any dishes and so on, you just grab it from the hot water outlet there. And then housed up inside there is just the switch for the compressor. So it's just a nice little spot to put it, keeps it out the way. We try to put them in the utility vents. If you're just going to have the one outlet there, then that way it saves you from having it in the dash and having to run around to the dash, turn it on, come back here. It's all just here where you're getting your outlet. And then it's also got airbags underneath the back, so we'll just wire it in so that this will turn the compressor on to get air out from here. But then if you use the switches at the back, they'll work independently, and this switch doesn't have to be on, it'll turn that compressor on. So we just wire that with a few different diodes just to stop any backfeeds from happening, and just save you from having to ever turn on this master switch if you just want to control the airbags at the back. Then also on the awning, we've just got some more lights. So these are the dual color lights with just a switch at the back here, so you just turn them on. And then there's just one on each of the arms, and then if you ever want to dim them, you can dim them, and then if you want to change the mode of the color, you can go to amber as well. So just a bit of extra light on the awnings as well, just to give you a bit more, because the gull wings are a little bit more down and they don't give you too much coverage. So these are just a nice little addition onto the awning. That's pretty much everything around here, so we'll jump into the back and check that out. All right, so jumping into the back, so there's got the KO3 tires. So these are 285/70 R17s, just on the ROH wheels. So there's just 5 of those, and it was just able to fit onto the back of the door here. Probably will need a tire carrier at some point. It probably will end up flogging out that hinge over time. So that was something that's probably looked down the line, just to change the bar out, to put a tire carrier on, take that load off the hinge, and then save the door from failing. Then below, we've also got the reverse camera. So that's just wired to the head unit. We've got an Alpine head unit there, so that's just for the actual reverse. And then we've got another one up the top here that's for the rear view, just because obviously your view can get a little bit blocked when it comes to the tires. And then if you're going to fill these MOLLE panels up, it's a bit hard to see. Also underneath, it's got an ARB 2-inch lift. That's also got a GVM. That was all done pre-rego. So this car was purchased direct from the dealer, and then before it got registered, we completed all the work, then sent it over to the pits after getting everything engineered. So that was done pre-rego. It just makes it a little bit easier. And it's got a 2-inch lift with the GVM just to handle the extra weight. Then at the back, we've also got the front runner ladder, just to make it a little bit easier if you ever wanted to access anything on the roof. Just got a nice little ladder there. That's a pretty nice little modification, just bolts on pretty easily. Just slides over the top here, and then just bolts straight in at the bottom here. So it doesn't take very long to install, but yeah, it makes it a lot easier accessing the roof. So that's a good little upgrade there. So just on the door, we're just going for the MOLLE panels on each window. That way you can hang up any extra accessories you want to get quick access to. And then we've also got our lights just on each side here as well. Same as the gull wings, they work the exact same. So you just get a bit of extra light there if you ever need it. Then we just swapped out the factory interior just for this little storage panel here, so that way it just helps protect the door a little bit. And then if you got anything like spices or anything quick and easy you wanted to chuck in here small, you can just use that little access panel there to be able to store small little items. And then we've just got the little fold down table on this side, and then it's also got a little pull out cutter there. So same thing, if you don't want to use that MaxTrax table and you want to kind of cook over here, you just use this little area here. And same thing, you got a nice little storage area there just to put some small little components. Then this one's got our interior in it, so it's a full aluminium. And this one was the first one we made a few changes to, just to make it a little bit nicer, and then also to save a lot of weight. So we actually pulled 40 kilos worth of weight out of this one just by stripping back certain components in the drawers that you can't see, like the aluminium base underneath the actual cooktop, underneath the bench top. It used to be a full solid piece of aluminium. We've now cut that out, still kept the strength there, and pretty much just removed as much unnecessary weight as possible. And you don't see it, so you may as well. And then that's the same for all the internal components where all the drawers and that go into. Any of those internal supports that we could pull weight out of, that's what we've done. And we're able to save 40 kilos. So that's really the big benefit of going to aluminium. One, I think you get a lot longer longevity out of it. You haven't got to worry about the wood ever deteriorating over time. Steel is a lot harder to deteriorate. And then the big thing is that weight saving. It's obviously going to weigh a lot less than the wood. Hence why quite a few of our customers do opt for the aluminium, just to save a little bit of weight. Then the other change that we've made is just to move the charge station back here. So it used to be at the very front, closer to where the fridge is, but we just moved it back just to make it more accessible from the rear here or the gull wing, where previously it was only really accessible from the gull wing. So if you're ever standing back here, it was a bit harder to use. And then it also makes it easier if you ever do opt for the airbags that this one had that I mentioned before. It's quite a lot easier just to use it from the back here. If you had that at the front, it would be quite a lot harder. So this just makes it a little bit more usable if you ever did opt for components like that. So on the charge station, it has a few different attributes to it. So we do have on the back here just the gauge for the 2 rear airbags. So if you ever wanted to see what your PSI is in each bag, you can see that straight there. And then we've got the switches to turn them up and down. So you just do that all at the back here. Makes it easier for leveling the vehicle. So if you take a spirit level with you, you obviously just put that in the back, and then when you're setting up for camp, instead of having to worry about trying to get max tracks tables out, max tracks out, or get rocks and so on, you can just level it all from the back here, and all you really have to do is worry about the front and back. But you do get quite a lot of movement out of it, so you can even level front to back as well. So it just makes it a lot easier when you're setting up for camp at night. You don't have to worry about making sure you're to level ground, because yeah, you can just solve it with the airbag. So that's a nice little feature. Then that's just the controls for the awning lights we already showed you before, just on the little flush mount panel there, just to make it look a little bit nicer. And then just on the front face, we've just gone for the Touch 50, that's the flush mount. So they didn't have the flush mounts for a while, but yeah, now every chance we can, we try to install them. They just look a lot cleaner. Instead of having this big side profile to them, they're quite flush. Obviously the downside to them is you can't install them in every location. You do need to be able to access the back of them, because you do mount them from the back. So you'll put it in, and then you just need to get screws from the back side. So if you can't get into the back, then obviously you can't mount the flush mount. You'd have to go to the traditional style. But if you can get to it, like on this one, where you just pull that front face plate off, it just makes it a lot nicer looking. So that's why we're going for the flush mount Touch 50 screen there. And just below that is just a couple 10 amp GPOs. So that way, if you ever want to power any of your 240 volt appliances, it's just easily accessible right up there. You haven't got to worry about running 240 volt cables through here and through here. There's also accessible straight from there. You can just plug them in straight there. And then same thing, if you ever wanted to access them from the opposite side, where the max tracks and that are, you can just plug them in straight there. But this one, they have opted to put a 10 amp outlet behind the max tracks table, so you don't necessarily need to use this. But if you do run dual induction cooking, you do need a couple of outlets, and you just plug it straight into there as well. So it just makes it a little bit more usable. And then on the front side of it, it's just got a couple twin USBs on it. And then that way you can just power any of your 12 volt appliances there. And also the diesel heater control is also on that side as well. Then at the back here, so we just got our interior. Not too much has changed when it comes to the drawers. They're pretty much the exact same. The only change we've made now is previously, we used to just always give the one color, which is just the one white for all the drawers. We've now changed that, and we just color match it, or we can change it to another color if you would prefer. But yeah, we just think color matching looks a little bit nicer. So obviously being the sandy taupe, we're just going sandy taupe for all the drawers, but they can be any color you like, really. Powder coating is pretty flexible these days with the different colors you get. So if you did want them powder coated another color, you definitely can do that. But yeah, most people just opt for the color matching just to make it look a little bit nicer. So that's pretty much the only change when it comes to the back side here. And then the other change on the interior is really just the wood finish on the top. So it used to be marine ply. It is cheaper. It does weigh a little bit less, but obviously just doesn't look as nice. So we just opt for a different wood finish here. So this one, I believe, is American oak. And it just, yeah, it looks a little bit nicer. It just finishes it off a little bit more. Where if you compared it to the old ones we did with the marine ply, it just looked a little bit industrial and just, yeah, wasn't the nicest looking. And then the other big change we made is just really to the floor. So we used to have a darker floor on it. The thing we just didn't like about it just obviously made it quite dark, especially with all the black, and then a dark floor as well. It just got really dark inside. So we decided to go for a lighter material just to make it look a little bit nicer. And then we just finished it off with the herringbone pattern. That's my personal favorite pattern when it comes to wood. So I think it just looks pretty nice. And then we just lined it up dead center in the middle there, so you can still see a little bit of it, even though most of it is covered from the cabinetry. It is pretty nice to open that up and just see that little V of the herringbone. So it's just a nice little touch just to finish it off. All right, so jumping inside, so we just got the Scirocco fan here. So we're just going for one, just to give us a bit of extra cooling and airflow when we are inside the vehicle here. And then just on the little charge station, just wanted to run through just the Touch 50, because we do have a few changes we've made to it, mainly with this digital switching. So they've just released digital switching not that long ago. The only downside to it is it's only able to have 5 10 inputs / outputs, but they're 5 volts. So we just had to go ahead and put a 5-volt relay that allows us to switch 12-volt circuits in. So it was just an extra component we had to put in, but we're able to get away with being able to do that and use the digital switching. But in future, they are releasing a new digital switching unit that will be 12-volt at 10 amps. So it will be a bit better moving forward, but it's what we had to do for the time being. So this is your normal display you would have seen multiple times now. Same deal as always, all your incoming charge comes from the left-hand side, so that's your alternator, your solar, and your AC power. Then you see everything that's happening with the battery down the bottom here. That's just the inverter to be able to turn it on and off. And then you just see your AC loads and then your DC loads. So if you want to use that digital switching, you see at the top, normally there's only one of these little tabs here, the left-hand side one, and then that's just for your inverter. Same as always, nothing's changed there. But now for the digital switching, we've got the other one next to it. So we'll just click on that and you'll see all the digital switching that we've put into this one. So we've only gone for 3, and that's just an external water pump, just to pick up external water if you ever wanted to do so. And then also you've got the tank pump, and then you can turn them on and off from here. And then we've just got a water element as well. So they do send this vehicle around the world. It does go to some pretty cold temperatures, so they just asked if we could put a heating element into the water tank just to obviously stop it from freezing. So that's just switched on and off from here as well. And then you can have more down here, but we're just going ahead and removed any other ones because we're only using 3 at the moment, but you can have up to 10, but then you can add more on. So you could have a pretty big list here, but they are only 5 volt at the moment. Hopefully that 12 volt's not too far away. Then same as always, you just go to the levels, you can see the tank, how much is in there, and then we always put the temperature sensor in the electrical cabinet, so you can always monitor to see how hot your electrical cabinet's getting, and maybe you might want to just stop using the inverter if it does get too hot, because it might just go into overload as well. And then the rest of the Touch 50 is pretty much the same. So it's really that digital switching that we've changed. Just stops us from having to put the toggle switches in that you would have seen we've done previously. For our dual switching, it can all just be done through the digital switching now. And it just cleans it up a little bit better. Instead of having to have all these different switches, add a lot of extra wiring and so on to the actual charge station, it just cleans it up, and then it's all just done through the touchscreen, so just a little bit nicer. Then just on our interior, yeah, not much has changed when it comes to this. We've got the 4 big drawers here, just gives you tons of storage, and then underneath this one is just the long big storage compartment. The big change we probably made is we just moved the Duetto under here. It used to be housed underneath the fridge, but the customer just asked if we could lower the fridge down so they could access it from the gull wing instead of having to lift up the actual bed to be able to access it when the bed's down. They can still do that now because we've lowered it, but to do so, the Duetto was under there, so we just moved it over into the storage compartment under here. Fits in the little compartment there quite nicely actually, so it's still tucked out of the way and you still get a long big compartment here. Then not much has changed then at the front there. That's the same compartment, just a small little compartment there that you can access, but then underneath that is where the battery is. So we've got 2 200 amp Amptron batteries in there just to power the full system, and then located next to that is then just the electrical compartment where we've put everything else. So that's got the 3 kVA multi-plus, got the 2 Orion DC-DC chargers in there. We've got the 150, I believe it is, for the solar on the roof, and then we just got a little 7515 for that blanket. And then the twin ARB brushless compressors under there, along with a 5 litre tank. So you're able to get quite a lot of air pressure and then be able to hold those the pressure into the airbags as well. And then just underneath, just on top of that is just where we put the fridge. So we used to always go to the National Lunar fridges. Unfortunately, we can't get them anymore in Australia. So we've had to look at other alternatives, and then we're just going for the Evercool. So Evercool's the same as the Destination 4-wheel drive. It's made in Australia. And then the big benefit that we like about it is just got the dual lid. So you can access it from this side just by lifting the fridge, and then you can also access it from the other side. You haven't got to pick a certain side that you've got to mount the fridge and then have the lid always open that way. You can just go from either side. So it works really well for the interior. That if you're sitting in here and you want to access it, you can, or from the driver's seat, you can still access it. But then if you wanted to jump outside and then access it through the gull wing, you can also do so. You haven't got to worry about trying to reach up and over a lid. Yeah, now that the Headspace is up, you can obviously see how much extra room you get in here. And then you can see the wood paneling for the premium. So that's really the big difference, is that wood panel finish. It looks pretty nice and obviously suits definitely the Sandy very well. And then the canvas, you can just change a few different color options for that. So you can go for this color, which is the sand color, or you can go for black. Usually the way most people go for is if you go for the sandy, they go for the sand color, and then if you go for like a white or a blue, then they'll go for the black. So you can just change that just depending on your preference. But yeah, you can obviously go for the black one if you prefer, but most people go for the sandy color. And it just looks pretty nice. And then obviously, yeah, you get quite a lot of space in it. You've got a few lights on the top, so those 2 lights there will work off the door switch as well. So when you open the door, they'll come on, and then you can just also hit the manual override switch next to it, and that'll also turn them on. So if you wanted to use them for normal lights, you can as well on the interior. And then usually they're wired into the vehicle's factory plug that then will power them from the start battery. But whenever we do our lithium systems, we always just change that power feed. So we just change the positive and negative going to it to come from our lithium, and then we still use that door switch negative to be able to turn it on and off. So, but it'll just pull the power from the actual lithium battery. So that way when you set up at camp, you can just turn them on. You have got to worry about draining that start battery there. So it's always a good idea if you do opt for this to look at putting them to the lithium battery, and then that way it just saves your car battery there. But that's pretty much everything in the back here. So we'll jump into the front and then we'll check out what we've done there. So just jumping into the front here, so just behind the seats, we've just got a few components behind here. So we've just got a little mixer for the hot water. So the way we always recommend setting up your hot water system is just the Duetto has a mixer on it itself where you can set the temperature. Obviously the downside, if you set that to the temperature that you actually would like for your showers, as soon as you start using that hot water up, cold water is going to start coming in to fill that back up, and then you're going to get cold pretty quickly. So we just always recommend set that to the max temperature on the Duetto, and then that way you're going to maximize the amount of hot water you've got. As you start using the cold water, you're not pulling so much from the actual Duetto unit itself. You've only got to pull a little bit because it is so hot and it brings in quite a lot of cold water, so it maximizes how much hot water storage you have. And then the other benefit to it is then you can set your temperature down here on the mixer. So you'll set your desired mixer temperature here for your shower, and then that way you know you're constantly going to get that temperature coming out, and then it just allows you to be able to take more showers or longer showers and have hot water for longer. So that's why we always set it up with a separate mixer instead of just using the one on the Duetto. Then just housed next, just below that is just the power outlet. So if they ever wanted to put anything extra in here for power wise, if it's got a little Anderson plug there, it just makes it a little bit easier for them. Just be able to utilize power from that instead of having to wire in any extra cables. It's got a power outlet there ready to go. Then located on top of that is just the little vent for the diesel heater. So it does have the diesel heater in it. So it's just got a vent there, and then another one on the back side just to be able to put the diesel in. And then that's just plumbed to the sub tank. So we always, if it's got 2 tanks like the Land Cruisers do, we always plumb the diesel pickup from the sub tank. That way, if you ever do start running a bit low on fuel, usually you're gonna run out of your sub tank first. Most people do that, and it still leaves your main tank for your actual vehicle. So that way you're not gonna suck all your diesel out using your diesel heater, and then you go to drive your car and like, oh, I ain't got any fuel left. So that's why we always plumb it from the sub tank, and it just leaves the main tank just for your actual vehicle. Then just located on top of that is just our RCD. So we've got the 2 RCDs. Same as always, it's got the Victron Multiplus in it, so it always needs the 2 RCDs. One for that shore power to come in, just to protect the incoming shore power, and then also one for your outlets. So we just put 2 16 amp breakers in there, and just allows you just to be able to protect everything. And then we go for 16 amps instead of 10, just from the fact that you can put 16 amp breakers on 2.5mm cable, which we use for everything. So just instead of limiting yourself down to 10, even though all the GPOs are 10 amps, it just allows you to be able to put more circuits on it. So if you had quite a lot of 240 volt power requirements, instead of having to go to multiple RCDs, just run that off the one, and then the cable and all the connections are rated for a 16 amp breaker. So there's just a no-brainer to go for a 16 amp, and then obviously you need a 16 amp for that incoming shore power because it is a 15 amp inlet. Then located just next to that is just where we put the DC hub. So we try to put them always in an accessible location because that's obviously where all your main fuses are. So if it ever was to blow, you want it to be in a quick, easy, accessible location. If you don't want to be pulling all these covers off just to be able to replace just a small fuse. So we always put that in a nice, easy location, and usually on the Troopies, that's right behind either the driver or the passenger seat. So that's just where that's housed. And then this one's just the DC hub dual, just so that we can have 2 DC-DC chargers connected up to it. Then located next to that is just another Anderson output, and then that's really just for the fridge, just to be able to power the fridge there. So you can quite easily just connect it up there, and then if you ever wanted to pull the fridge out, you can just unplug it straight there. A lot of times we hardwire them into the DC hub, but then if you ever wanted to ever pull it out, your cable's stuck with the vehicle, so it just allows you to be able to just quickly disconnect it, and you can pull it from the vehicle if you ever needed to. And then just on the front there is just the Evercool control panel, so we just mounted it that way, obviously, so you can still use it. And the big benefit to that is just got a nice easy on-off switch there, so you can just turn it on and off, so you can always leave it plugged in. You don't have to worry about disconnecting it. And then if you ever want to turn it off, you just hit the off button, and then it's obviously not going to draw power anymore. And then if you want to quickly turn it on, just reach around and turn the unit on. Yeah, so moving forward, so we just got the window tint on just the 2 front windows, and we've also put them on the rear barn doors. So we just got we've got actually 40% on the front and then 20 on the back. You can put 35 on the front to be legal. The downside to the 70 series and some of the Land Cruisers is they already come with a slight tint to them. So if you go ahead and put 35% on it, it actually goes darker than that, which is an issue we ran into on this one. We were trying to get it retroed. So we just had to pull that 35% off and then put 40 on it, and now it's all good. So that's something just to keep in mind. Just make sure that, yeah, if you do put tint on, that the windows already aren't got any tint to them. These ones have like a greenish little tint that makes them slightly a little darker. And it just meant that when we put the 35 on, I think it came out to 28%. So obviously too dark to pass the pits. So now we put 40 on and just get it to the 35% that we're after. And then obviously the rears are all good at 20%. So no issues there. Then we've got the 1-stone armrest on each side. This is another one of those upgrades I personally love. It's only a small little upgrade, same as the mirrors. Me personally, I think it's all those little small ones that are the best upgrades. It's so comfortable. I just love these things. I wish I could get them on my D-Max, but unfortunately I don't make them for it. But yeah, I think if you've got a car that the 1-stone armrest fit, I definitely think it's something you should look at doing, because yeah, it's a great addition, and you get a little cup holder there, and they're just, yeah, super comfortable. And then that also comes into the seats as well. So we've upgraded the seats. These are the Scheelman seats. They're by far the most comfortable ones. You can get other ones out on the market. Recaras are pretty good. They are a lot cheaper than what these Scheelmans are, but the Scheelmans are by far the most comfortable you can get. And that's why they've opted for them. And they're just on the little adapter plates. So they just marry straight up to the 70 series. So the other thing they've opted for as well, same as the 1-stone, they just got the little armrest here. And I think that is probably one of the best upgrades. I love these things. I just think armrests are so good. I love them. And yeah, if you're going to get seats, I definitely think you should look to try to upgrade them to the armrest. They're just so much comfortable. Even if you had like the little fridge, the roadie fridge in there, yeah, these are so much better than the roadie fridge, because you can't, then the roadie fridge is obviously stuck at the height it is. You can only put it to wherever it can fit. Where these are put in the exact location you want them for your arm, and they're just so comfortable. So I definitely think if you're looking to upgrade your seats, definitely consider putting some armrests on them, because yeah, it makes driving so much more comfortable, especially even if you had a roadie in. But that's the big reason why we couldn't fit a roadie on this one, because the armrests do go in the way. And that's something the customer was kind of tossing up between, is do they get rid of the armrest and go to the roadie and get the 15-litre fridge, or stick with this? And we just kind of just said to them, like, you can do it, but because it's got the handbrake and so on here, it will sit up pretty high. It's the issue we faced on the last Troopy we did, where it was sitting quite high and it was a bit uncomfortable. We lowered it as much as we could, but you can only lower it so much because of all these other components. You'd have to go to an e-brake if you wanted to get any lower, which is obviously a pretty big job. So it sits quite high. So we just said to them, like, look, you can obviously do it, but you have to lose these armrests, and I personally wouldn't do it. So that's why they just decided not to go for the roadie fridge, but we can fit one in here. Just got to consider it's going to sit quite high. So that's just one thing to consider if you are looking to go for the roadie fridge. And then these do have heating to them, so we just put little switches just in here, the little for the left and right, and then he's got the low mode and then the high mode there, just for both sides. So they're probably one of the few switches that we won't swap out to the OEM style, just because it does have that dual layer to it. It's got the off and then obviously low mode, high mode. So we always just put these in the nicest location we can kind of find. Sometimes that's up on the dash, like on the previous one we did, and then sometimes we just put them down here. So it's just a nice little spot to put them. They're kind of out the way. You never really know they're there unless you're looking for them. And yeah, it's a pretty nice feature to have heated seats. So yeah, that's a nice little upgrade as well. Jumping onto the dash, So we've just got the USB-Cs on each side, so you can just charge your phone. That's on the passenger and driver's side. They've just got the C and A. So most appliances these days do charge off USB-C, but still some of those old ones use the USB-A. That's why we still go for the dual. Once obviously the A gets phased out properly, then we'll look to go to twin USB-Cs, but for now, we just find that's the best combination. Into the dash here. So we've just got a few switch spots. They haven't got too many, they haven't got really any external lighting. So there's not too much. We had to actually switch through the dash on this one because we do have the water pumps switch from the screen, and then we also do have the air compressor switch from the utility vent. So we didn't need to go to too many switches here. So really the only one we've added is just the 12 volt for the Duetto. So that's just where that one's housed. And then that was the only extra one we really had to add in. The only other change we've made here is then we've just, because it does have an upgraded head unit, the Alpine one, it just comes with this little insert there for the dash, just for all your HDMI, and then a couple USB points direct to be able to run your phone and connect it up wide to the head unit. So that's just where that gets housed. And then this is just the Alpine head unit. So Alpine is probably more on the expensive side. It is probably one of the best ones you can get. And then for us, we just think it's probably the best unit for the 70 series for most cars really, because the one thing we like about it is it just looks really nice and sleek. It's still got a few of those main buttons that you do want to access on them. It's not all through the touch screen. You can just get to a few of those quick little ones you want to get to, like the volume and then skip. But then it just looks pretty factory. They always do a really good job of integrating them really well into the dash, so they look pretty factory. That's what we try to do always, is go for the OEM style finish. You can obviously go for bigger head units than that, but then they stick out. My personal opinion, they just look a little bit ugly, and you can tell straight away as soon as you jump in, that's not factory. We don't really like that. So that's why we're going for the Alpine. Unfortunately, they are a little bit more expensive, but in our personal opinion, they're really worth it. So that's why we're going for that head unit. And then just up the top here, we're just going for the rear view mirror camera, and then that's just the car vision one. So it's the same deal. You can get other ones on the market that have the front forward dash cam. That is a nice feature. The downside to them is most of them are designed for clip-on, so they clip over the factory mirror. Same thing, just doesn't look factory. So I'll go ahead and put one of those into mine, and mine actually already had like all these little buttons down here. And as soon as I swapped it out, unless you know I swapped it out, you just jump into my car and you think it's factory, because you can also turn it off and then it becomes just a normal mirror. So right now when I'm not running a tray and canopy, I've just got the tray on there, I have no need for a camera. So I just use the normal mirror function of it. So whenever you jump into my car, you'll see it straight away and you think, oh, that's just a factory mirror. You would never know it's actually an upgraded one to have the dual cameras into it. And it's one of the only ones on the market that allows you up to 3 different cameras, and that's what I've got on mine. I've got a front-facing one, a rear one, and then potentially I'm going to have another rear one on mine. So that's the big benefit to when you have multiple camera inputs. A lot of them only have 1 or 2, and then yeah, they're all clip-on style. They don't factory mount up to the factory points, so they just stick out of place. So that's why we really like those ones. And then just in the door cards as well, we've just got the upgraded speakers for the head unit. So just on the left and right, so we'll just remove the factory ones out of the dash, put the upgraded ones in each side, along with the door card inserts, and then we've just got the little tweeters just on the 2 A-pillars on either side there. So that way we can really maximize the amount of sound we can get out of that upgraded head unit by just upgrading the speakers there. Yeah, so that's everything on this one. It's probably the nicest one we've done so far. Being a brand new vehicle, we're completing all the work pre-rego, just made it a lot simpler for the customer. Just being able to get all those modifications like the engineering and that for the Headspace, and then obviously the upgraded suspension with the GVM, all done pre-rego. And then that way you don't have to worry about any issues down the line when it comes to the police and that. Everything will be 100% legal. And yeah, it's a pretty nice, sleek looking car. So that's why, yeah, I think it's probably the nicest one we've done. And yeah, no real lights on the outside. They want to do a little camping when it's more in stealth mode. Hence why it doesn't really have too much outside lighting on it. But yeah, it came together pretty nicely. Yeah, it's pretty good when you can do everything in one go. Just allows you to be able to just lay everything out correctly, make the harness, and then everything just flows pretty nicely. So yeah, it was a good one to work on. And then yeah, the customer will be picking this up shortly, and then they'll be able to take it all around Australia, and then they're going to ship it overseas as well in the sea container. So that's also why it's pretty low as well. Didn't want to put a big lift and tires on it, so it could still get put into a sea container and then shipped around the world. So if you're after something similar, or if you've got any questions on it, just feel free to contact us, and we'll catch you on the next one.